What's going on, guys? MLS Aces Podcast, episode 233. This is your host, Tom Sweezy. This week, I have a very fun episode. This week was a little less tactical talk, I guess, in the interview, a little bit more fun talk, talking about all things supporters groups, just all things kind of larger picture going on in the league, maybe some fun tweets that have been put out there from time to time. I don't want to talk too much about it, but my interview is with Eli Lesser of This Week in MLS. Eli, thank you for coming on. It was a lovely conversation. I always enjoy talking to you, and I love having, repeat guests back on the podcast because you can just BS a little bit more, and it's just fun. It's fun. I hope the conversation was fun for you guys. I had a ton of fun with it. I do have a few things I want to talk about before we dive into that. Since I did miss an episode last week, I apologize about that. Life's gotten a little bit crazy in the past 2 weeks, I guess, previous, but stuff's calmed down. So I'm glad to hop into chatting about some stuff. First of all, I want to say a massive, massive congratulations to Orlando City on 1, winning their first ever MLS era trophy. 2, obviously winning the 2022 U.S. Open Cup, and 3, qualifying for CONCACAF Champions League in the first time in their MLS tenure. First time ever, but it still is the first time in their MLS tenure. They are the second MLS team to qualify for the 2023 CONCACAF Champions League, along with Vancouver Whitecaps winning the Canadian Championship earlier this year. So pretty cool. I love to see it. I like seeing teams win trophies, and now it really comes down to the teams who haven't won trophies so far in Major League Soccer in any capacity, whether that's the Open Cup, Supporter Shield, any of the international trophies, MLS Cup, whatever. It is a lot of the newer teams of recent years, which makes sense because newer teams don't have as much opportunity to win trophies yet as of some of the older teams. So it's nice to see it. I do love how, like some of the more recent MLS Cup winners are kind of winning trophies in pairs. New York City, there we go. That's opposite. New York City winning MLS Cup last year. Orlando City winning the U.S. Open Cup this year. It's like, we came in together. Now we're kind of winning together. So I like it. I like it. But seriously, congratulations to Orlando City. The final was absolutely sick. Benji Michel, I think was a complete game changer. Facundo Torres, I think he was on it all night, and it just maybe needed someone else to help him unlock it, and that's what Benji Michel did. So it was an absolutely great game, great environment down in Orlando. So good job, guys, for filling things out. And I also got to give love to Sacramento Republic on that. When I talked to Devin Kerr a few weeks ago on this podcast, and if you guys haven't watched or seen or listened to that episode, I highly recommend it because Devin gave some great insight into the Open Cup run from Sacramento and obviously all things USL. But we chatted about Sacramento and what this game means to them and for them and for the fans and everything like that. And you really saw it on the broadcast. I personally believe, I think you really saw, whether it was with Jordan Angeli and the fans back in Sacramento, or whether it was the fans who made the travel from Northern California to Southern Florida, right? Like that environment, that game, that fandom, all whatever you want to say, like truly is what American soccer is about. It's truly what what soccer is about, period, right? Just dedicated fans who love this sport, love their team, and showing out, I think, is absolutely fantastic. So I got to give props to them. Got to give props to the team, obviously, in the long run that they made. This is a historic season for them. I saw, players crying. I saw players on Twitter and on social media, just really, truly just being purely upset about the moment, about the loss. And I know it's tough. I mean, I'm not a professional athlete. I can't sit here and say, like, be proud, but you should be proud for what you accomplished this season so far. And you have a very long, what I'm predicting to be a very long USL Cup playoff run in front of you as well. So, Sacramento Republic, keep your heads high. Orlando City, congratulations, huge win. Now, go show out in CCL. Go do what Seattle did. But next, maybe a little bit more. Well, not more bad news. I've said some good news, but maybe some bad news now. I wasn't able to chat about it last week, but Paulo Nagamura was relieved of his head coaching duties at the Houston Dynamo. I've been on this podcast when Paulo Nagamura got hired and wasn't fully supportive of his hire with new ownership down in Houston. But was of the mindset of this is Houston's long-term plan, a young head coach, an exciting head coach who you're going to build around, and you're going to give him years to kind of prove himself and build the team that he wants. I'm for it. I'm fine with it. You didn't do that. It was one season. And again, it's just a rotation of coaches. It's a rotation of who's in charge and inconsistency in the roster because, the next head coach is going to want his guys. And I just don't agree with the firing. I think Paulo did a lot for what he didn't have talent-wise on this roster. I truly believe if you were going to give him the job, then you needed to give him a long-term opportunity to prove himself, and they didn't do that. And it's back to the drawing board for Houston, and to me, it's like it's going to be another 2-3 seasons before you're potentially good again. But is that next manager you're going to bring in, is he going to be getting the leash to build his team, to build up his roster, and just be competitive in the Western Conference and in Major League Soccer in general? I don't know. I don't know. I'm struggling with words here for the Houston situation because I just see it as a bad situation. I see, there's obviously a new ownership, new front office, and I really think they have to hit it out of the park with this next managerial hire. If they don't, then you're going to be back to the drawing board in another season or two, and I'll be having the same conversation about the next manager, right? So it sucks. It sucks for Paulo. I really do hope he gets another head coaching job somewhere within the U.S. Maybe he's an assistant manager at the MLS level. Maybe he's a head coach at the USL level, or whatever it may be. I did like a lot of what he was bringing, and there were some aspects to Houston games that I really did enjoy. So, I hope he can get his next job, but Houston, you don't have takeoff. I'm sorry about that one, and sorry about the bad pun. But two more things that I quickly want to mention. Obviously, I'm a New York City FC fan. If this is your first time, there you go. I told you, but if this is not your first time, then you probably know I'm an NYCFC fan. Tonight, September 14th, is the 2022 Campeones Cup, New York City FC versus Atlas FC, both reigning league champions for MLS and Liga MX. This is, I think, tactically going to be a very poor game. I will say that. I know Michele Giannone on Twitter is trying to hype me up a little bit about it, and I can understand it. I'm trying to be hyped about it. Obviously, if New York City win, it's a trophy. It's the second trophy in club history. It's the first international trophy for the team, and I'll be pumped about it. Like I want to see it. I want to see us raise a trophy for the absolute poor form that this team has been in. If you guys don't know, New York City only have 2 wins in their last 10 games. There has been absolutely zero urgency on the ball, zero urgency in the midfield to press another team, which is allowing the back line to get absolutely ripped apart. We're getting outscored double in the last 10 games, 18 goals allowed to 9 goals scored. It's not a good stretch of games. And right now, heading into the playoffs, it's not where you want to see it. So I will say this: Atlas are probably doing just as poor as NYCFC right now in Liga MX. So they're probably looking for a little bit of a game where they can build a little bit of confidence as well. So this is what this game is going to be. It's for a trophy. It's for an international trophy. But I think the winner of this game could really use this as, okay, we won, we got a trophy. Now let's go win some domestic league games, and let's go prove that we're good and the reason why we played in the champion of champion games. I'm hoping at the end of the day it's New York City. I'm hoping that we can use this as a spark plug for maybe just getting back into some form with the talent that we do have on this roster, because we do have talent on this roster. Keaton Parks is obviously back, which I think is going to be a huge bolster for that midfield that I kind of pointed out before. Now, I don't know if he's starting, but even if you get him off the bench, right, as I keep saying spark plug, but as a spark plug for this team, then maybe that could be something that could help us boost the playoff run. I doubt it at this point. I'm viewing the Campeones Cup as the only potential trophy that we will be winning in 2022, but I hope it could be one of 2 potential trophies that we're winning in 2022. I doubt it, but let's see. I think Matt Doyle said it on Extra Time. We've seen weirder things in MLS for a team to win a trophy late in the season and go on a run. I'm absolutely hoping that's what it is. But I'm going with the prediction tonight of Atlas winning Campeones Cup. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to my fellow NYCFC fans. I'm sorry to NYCFC. I just think Atlas come in. Obviously, any game between Mexico or the U.S., Liga MX or MLS, there's a lot of high intensity, a lot of high pressure. There's a lot of guys who I don't think are ready for that. And again, urgency not being a thing right now on this team. I wanna be proven wrong. Maybe I'm throwing this out there to be proved wrong. And if I am wrong, that is absolutely fine. I love it. Fantastic. But I will be rooting for my guys. I just think at the end of the day, Atlas are going to they're going to take this one. The final thing that I just want to mention, I want to talk about quickly, obviously, is what's probably the biggest storyline in Major League Soccer right now, and that's the Supporter Shield race for pretty much between Philadelphia Union and LAFC. I mean, if you guys have listened to any MLS podcast, whether it's Extra Time, whether it's Managing Expectations, whether it's MLS Today, whether it's MLS Gone Wild, whether it's This Week in MLS. I mean, I know they're not a podcast. I know Eli's not a podcast, but he's been talking about it, right? Whoever you follow that is MLS associated, MLS related, they've been a guest on this podcast. They've had their own stuff going on. They have been talking about LAFC over the past 2-3 weeks, right? Because it's Bale, it's Vela, Chiellini, it's Boanga, it's Christian Teo, it's Rango, right? Like everyone just talked about it. I am guilty of it. And at the end of the day, they are a very good team. They're still a very good team. I still think they're the second best team in Major League Soccer, but I think people hype them up to be this unbeatable force in Major League Soccer, and they're just going to run through everything. They're going to easily win the Supporter Shield, and they're going to easily break the points record, and they're going to take everything. I think one thing that maybe was quickly mentioned on this podcast and other podcasts that was going to have to be a balance for Steve Cherundolo and LAFC was taking in a bunch of new faces, a bunch of new personalities, a bunch of new names, and balancing that to the current locker room, because this isn't FIFA. It's not Football Manager. There's personalities. There's real life stuff going on to this. And I think it just takes time naturally to do that, which is why you bring in players over a preseason. You play with them over the preseason. You get to get the locker room forming together, and you're good for a season, right? So bringing in all these new players, especially in the attack, with a lot of probably just lack of cohesiveness in the attack with new faces, and then just putting that into the locker room and everything like that, I think was always going to be a challenge for LAFC and Cherundolo that many people ignored. I ignored it. And I think we're seeing those struggles over the last few games. I think LAFC haven't had a win in a few games now, and they need to take one. So I'm hoping LAFC can just kind of maybe right the ship for a playoff run, because they are a really good team, and I want to see these absolutely talented players ball out. That would be really nice, but they are still in the Supporter Shield run right now, or Supporter Shield race. Right now, Philly is leading that race with 31 games played. They're at 63 points. LAFC at 31 games played has 61 points. So LAFC is only 2 games back, with both teams 2 points back, with both teams having 2 games left to play. I personally still think Philly takes it. They have what I would say is probably an easier schedule than LAFC for the final 2 games. Yes, Philly are on the road for those 2 games. They're at Atlanta. They're at Charlotte. LAFC have split 1 home game, 1 away game. They are home versus Houston. They're away at Portland. Of the 4 teams, of the 4 opponents I just named, Portland's probably the hottest and the best of the 4. Portland have won their last 4 games. They're looking good. They're looking for a pretty much traditional Portland Timbers late season run into the playoffs. So I think LAFC would probably drop points there at Portland. And then versus Houston, I mean, Houston just beat LAFC 4 games ago. Like I think that's kind of what started the shocking results for LAFC was the San Jose game, then the Portland, then the Houston game. So I think LAFC have realistically could possibly only get 1 point out of the final 2 games. I think that wouldn't be a shocking result if it happened. I like to think they get 3. They take the Houston game, they learn from last time, and then I think again that Portland game is going to be tough, especially on decision day. With Portland still fighting for their own playoff lives and playoff hopes. So I think I don't know. I think Philly takes a supporter shield race just because mainly LAFC's schedule is a little bit tougher. Philly, yes, you have to go to Atlanta. Yes, you have to go to Charlotte. Charlotte do have 2 wins in their last 5, but it's against the same team. It's against, I did it right, against these boys right here. So, I mean, you're not playing the strongest team, Charlotte, and you've beat the same team twice, and you've lost to Orlando, Toronto, and Cincinnati. I think Philly could probably take that and come out with a result there. And Atlanta, I've had a mixed bag of results. They've beaten DC and Toronto. Again, not the toughest teams. They drew Columbus, which is probably fair. And I mean, you lost to Philly, which is a team you're playing now, and you lost to Portland, right? So you're losing against the really good teams. I think you're drawing the teams that you should be drawing, and you're beating the teams you should. Atlanta's playing fine, and they could sneak away with the result at Atlanta, but again, I think it's probably going to be some extent of Philly takes 4 points, LAFC takes 3 points, and Philly takes the supporter shield for their second trophy in club history too, and their second supporter shield. So I'm excited to see. What the race turns out to be. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope this comes to decision day, and this is just some fun to be looking out for and watching on decision day. But Philly, man, like they're just on a historic tear. 5 wins in their last 5. They're outscoring teams in their last 5, 23-2, like 23 goals to 2 goals allowed. This is a top all-time team defensively. I think they're one of the top all-time teams in goal differential right now as well. We're being able to watch one of the best teams in MLS history with the 2022 Philadelphia Union, and that's insane. And that's probably something I definitely know that's something that no one said to start the year. I think if you're a fan, you just have to soak it in. You have to watch it and enjoy it and love it. I know the history of winning Supporter Shield and MLS Cup in the same season is not great. So I don't know, however you want to take that. I don't think those two things necessarily have to go together, but understand it is what it is. And if you're not a fan of Philly, I think you just got to sit back and also just watch greatness and love greatness and appreciate greatness. You may not love it, appreciate greatness, because this Philly team is greatness. They have a best 11 caliber player, I think, at every single position. I think you could honestly argue that the best 11 for the 2022 MLS season should probably be like 9 Philadelphia players starting. I think you could argue it. I wouldn't, but you could. This team is just fantastic. They just play such just attacking killer soccer. I was able to go to the game this past weekend, Philly versus Orlando City, and I know Orlando City was coming off of an Open Cup hangover, and I get that, and I talk about this a little bit with Eli during the interview, but like Philly, just once they pounce, they are going for blood. They're going for 17 goals in the game, and Jim Curtin's just swagging out on the sideline, and that is what it is. But I don't want to talk too much about it because, like I said, I do get into my interview with Eli Lesser of This Week in MLS. That is coming up in the next few seconds. Everyone, if you're listening to this, watching this, thank you so much for watching. I do greatly appreciate it because I enjoy getting my opinions about U.S. soccer, MLS out there. And I don't know, it's fun to have a podcast just as a project for myself. And if people listen and enjoy, then that just makes it even better. So thank you. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like and follow and subscribe and do whatever you got to do there. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, make sure you're not driving, you're safe, and you can like, subscribe, rate, whatever you got to do on podcasts too. Again, interview coming up with Eli Lesser of This Week in MLS. And thank you guys for listening. We are back with another episode of the MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy, and this week I am joined by a special guest. He's back for a second appearance on the podcast. We don't get many second appearances, so it is special when it happens. Eli Lesser, This Week in MLS. Eli, what's up, man? How are you?
I am doing excellent. I'm on edge with the remainder of the MLS season, but also it has been one hell of a ride. If I have another decision day heartbreak, I might lose it and might lose my faith in myself. But, at the same time, it's MLS and MLS going to MLS. And that's why we love this league.
I mean, I was thinking about you earlier. I was listening to the last extra time. I was catching up on the last 2 episodes. I missed a few last week or whatever it was. But Matt Doyle said the Galaxy are cursed at this point. He was like, there's no way of explaining it. They have the most expected goals. They play beautiful soccer. They get the ball in the spots that they want. Do you believe that the Galaxy are cursed?
No, I just think they're stupid. You know, it was revealed today by an article in Athletic, and Doyle mentioned it, that they have one person in their scout staff. They have
Really?
one full-time scout, while Philadelphia has like a whole team.
What is
And
this?
that's
20,
why
like
they're
2013? Like, what is this?
No, like they have one scout. And the fact that the Galaxy signed Kevin Cabral because their agent, or his agent, sold him to Chris Klein. That's how they brought in Kevin Cabral. You know, they're like, oh, we need a winger. Oh, this agent has a winger. He's telling me that he's pretty good, so we should definitely bring him in. There was no like watching him play, talking to him. It was just
That's bad. That's real
Yeah.
bad. All right.
I
Well,
don't think it's a curse. I think it's just
it's not a curse. It's
stupidity.
incompetence. That's
Yes.
that's what it is. Well, I mean, we can start off straight into the Galaxy talk if you want. I'm down for it. So I want to just set the precedent of you are a Galaxy fan. You are a member
Yes.
of the Angel City Brigade. What went into that decision? Because you doing that made me do some research into NYCFC supporter groups and everything like that. And next season, I will be joining a supporter group, and I will be going for the full ride, going to games, going to meetups and everything like that. I'm very excited for it. So thank you for helping me make that decision. And I want to hear about your experience.
Yeah, and I'll tell you about the positives and negatives, because there's always going to be, or
Of course.
at least when you're in a city with LAFC fans, there's going to be negatives to claiming you're part of ACB.
We get
And
similar.
Yeah.
We get Red Bull,
Yeah,
Red Bull NYCFC.
exactly.
Yeah.
So like I will warn you about certain things about joining it, because I am kind of messing with my credibility in a way by joining the Angel City Brigade, but like me joining them has nothing to do with any of my aspirations to work in the league or to get it. I'm not saying, oh, I joined them because I want to get a job with the Galaxy or anything. That's like not the case at all. If anything, it like hurts my chances in a way. But for me, it's just like my best friend and I, we've been going to Galaxy matches our whole lives. We've been watching, the ACB from afar, and we always wanted to join. We always wanted to learn the chance. And, this summer just really presented like an opportunity for us to really join it and, to have our community, because he and I have always been kind of like, it's been us two versus the world in a way, where we've always just been him and I together and all of that. So I wanted to, do something with him and be in a place where he felt like we belonged together with other people. And, ACB was just a no-brainer for us. And the welcoming that he and I have had has been like some of the best attention I've probably ever received in my life, and probably the most fun I've ever had, going to some of the tailgates and pre-games and all of that stuff, and just meeting all these people. And the beautiful thing is you're meeting all these people from completely different backgrounds, people who have immigrated to the US and stuff, and they found their community within ACB and within the Galaxy. And that's just the beautiful thing to me, and that's what really drew my friend and I. And it's been such an incredible experience. However, there are negatives, because when I did announce it, which maybe I shouldn't have publicly been like, I've joined ACB, but I was
privately do it.
Yeah, I was in my feels. I was like so happy, like because I was getting so much support from one side. I was like, oh, the whole world's going to support me. Well, when you're a Galaxy fan and LAFC is right there, obviously you're going to get some hate. And anytime I mentioned anything LAFC related or anything, the LAFC fans would hound me. They would call me like they would discredit my work and all of that stuff just because, oh, he's a Galaxy fan. Even though I even said things favorable about LAFC, very honest, like LAFC is doing a great job, but because I'm a Galaxy fan, then all of a sudden that like discredits my work, even though I'm complimenting them. And I'm saying the most basic thing. I'm like, Gareth Bale signed for LAFC. And they're like, oh my God, no, he didn't. Like, that's not true. Like, but why is Body Armor with Eli? Like, I even got like a retweet with like a clown face with me and my team Body Armor post. Like, it's so funny to me. But yeah. Certain things happen with me and the club LAFC, not just their fans, to where I'm actually not posting about them anymore because they don't want me to be there, and I'm not gonna promote them if that's how they want it to be. But
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, look, don't have to dive into any of that. That's just very interesting news and I mean, look, I think it's obviously like you're drawing your line in the sand with making a decision like that, and that's just the consequence of it. But I get it because obviously publicly I'm an NYCFC fan. I'll say it till the day I die, but I will say positive things about the Red Bulls. Like the Red Bulls
Yeah.
do a great job in a lot of things. Like if we could develop players like the Red Bulls have in the past, and probably in present day, I think it's great. And I think it shouldn't stop you from, and again, just my opinion, shouldn't stop you from complimenting LAFC or saying positive things or negative things about the Galaxy or whatever it may be. But that's a little shitty. That's a little shitty
Yeah.
about LAFC.
It is what it is, but
Yeah.
I consider myself the biggest supporter and hater of every single MLS team, including my own. So, if I joke around a little bit about one team that shouldn't, like have, everyone just pile on me, but I understand. Like I do stuff that pokes the bear a little bit. I put a Chivas USA logo over my LAFC jersey once, and that's what really set it off, and that's what got me almost banned from Bank of California Stadium, which was a wild day, but thankfully that did not happen. But that was just a weird type of thing, and that's the type of thing that I warn you about when you do choose. I mean, that's another thing, but also on the other side of things, I spent the first 6 years of This Week in MLS being completely unbiased and hiding. I mean, people knew that I was a Galaxy fan, but I never really publicly would say it. But like, I just got like tired of like not being able to like publicly talk about the Galaxy a bit more.
Root for your team. Exactly.
I mean, everyone knows, whoever talks to me knows, like I started watching soccer because of the Galaxy, not because of like Barcelona or Manchester United. Like it started with the Galaxy for me. That was my first exposure. So, I'm going to have that love for them, even if, they're down tremendous like they have been the past 7 years.
Well, look, if the one joke I'll make about it is this: if the Red Bulls want to ban me from Red Bull Arena, they need every person they can get to fill out that stadium. So they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. So
exactly.
No, let's dive into the actual Galaxy on the field talk. You've already mentioned Kevin Cabral. I'm not going to dive into that, but I want to talk about the recent struggles because there's so much talent on this Galaxy roster, like from head to toe. Maybe the back line is obviously the weakest part of the team, but like, what is your overall take present day of this Galaxy squad heading into the final weeks of the season with still a very realistic chance of making the playoffs?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the Galaxy are struggling, but at the same time, they haven't been losing, which is honestly more frustrating because we're not getting blown out or anything. We're like choking leads or missing penalties, but it's been draw, win, draw. Like, where is all this coming from? And maybe that is the curse that Matt Doyle is kind of talking about, because you see how passionate the Galaxy have been on the field. Like that Nashville match, they were too passionate in a way because it ended up costing them like 6 yellow cards. It was crazy. But that's just been what the kind of the struggle. I feel like they have this game plan heading into a match. They're so focused on it. And the second that like things slip out of their fingers a little bit, the whole team depletes. And you saw that in this past Nashville match where they were playing beautiful soccer. They were dominating possession the first 20 minutes of the match. Then one yellow card came. The other yellow cards came. Then that penalty was conceded. And it just all went from there. And then all of a sudden, the organization on offense that they had at the start of the match completely went away because they get all wrapped up in all these fouls. And then the Chicharito missed penalty and all that stuff. It's tough. But one thing I will say is Riqui Puig is the answer. He is the most impressive player that has put on a Galaxy uniform since, I'd say, Christian Pavone. I won't go all the way back to like, the Robbie Keane days, but Riqui Puig, what he brings to the field is so amazing and so incredible. And it just sucks that like, we actually haven't lost since he started, but we haven't won either, or we're like not winning. I think we've won one match, but it just sucks. The 2-2 draws, the 1-1 draws, like, these should be easily fixable. We're scoring goals. That's what's frustrating. We're scoring goals, but we're also giving them up. And I don't know. I don't think our defenders are actually that bad. I think they just make stupid decisions at the worst times. But
I mean, I can agree with you there. Everyone like hates on the defenders, right? And it's like, I'm not going to say that they are top of the league defenders, right? Like,
They're
I'm not going to say no. Like, I'm not going to. Yeah, you don't have Jack Elliott, you don't have Walker Zimmerman back there, whoever else you want to say, right? But you have quality defenders. Like, I don't think Derek Williams is a bad defender. I don't think Eric Zavaleta is a bad defender. Sega Kulaba. I like Zavaleta. I'm a Zavaleta guy. But I just think it's like I'm losing faith in Vanny a little bit, and I'm seeing some Vanny out. I'm seeing it more and more every single week as the Galaxy season goes on. I guess, what's your take on Vanny, and I guess the Vanny out haters or Vanny out crew that's starting to mob up outside the Galaxy front office?
For me, it really isn't about Vanny, and I don't want to just beat the dead horse on this one, but it starts at the top for the Galaxy. In their front office. I mentioned at the start of the show, the fact that there's only one scout in the scouting department
doesn't help.
The people hiring the people, that's the issue right now. And, I've heard things about Dennis Teclos, the last GM, like really wanting to leave because of the situation that was happening in the front office. That's why he left to Feyenoord so quickly, even though he was in the process of building, still had a year. No, I think his contract was up, but like they're really trying to push for an extension. But, I'm not going to say the name. Starts with a K and ends with a line. But that's where it needs to start for the Galaxy moving forward. Because I don't think Vanny actually has been that terrible of a coach. I think he's been good at changing up the formations and stuff, depending on which team we face. At the start of the season, he was very, very glued to a 4-3-3. It wasn't working. So he started to figure out, actually it was working because we were doing well. But, as he started, tanking a little bit, like he, started switching it up with the different personnel that we got when we brought in Brugman and we brought in Puig. Like, he's been giving us new formations that actually I think have been working pretty well. The problem is just like those one or two moments every single match that just totally just give the Galaxy a downward spiral. And maybe that's a mentality issue or something, but they go into every match with a solid game plan, and it looks like, watch the first 20 minutes of the Galaxy match tomorrow against Vancouver, and you are going to see beautiful soccer. And then the second that we mess up on something, the second someone gets a yellow card, that's when it's all going to go downhill.
I mean, I can agree with that, because I think of, honestly, like the perfect game representation of what I think the 2022 LA Galaxy is the 3-3 draw to Seattle a few weeks ago, where it was just like there was a 15-minute span, they were killing them, 15-minute span where the Seattle's then just on the hot foot, right? And it's just like there's just so many different just phases of this team that happen in the course of half an hour during a game. And I don't know if the team's good. I don't know if the team's bad. I can't say either or. And it's just, I don't think it's what you're saying. I agree with you. I don't think it's a Vanny thing. I think it's more of a front office thing. I think there needs to be massive shifts in that front office, bring in fresh blood, fresh talent, fresh ideas, whatever you want to say. But Vanny is a guy who attracts talent. I mean, there's been multiple stories. I think Michele Giannone has said it a few times, where both Paul Arriola and Ilie Sanchez have both said they were close to signing with the Galaxy because they wanted to play for Greg Vanny. I know it hurts. I know it hurts Galaxy fans. I'm sorry.
Imagine having Ilie Sanchez and Paul Arriola right now.
Exactly, right? Kevin Cabral and, anyone else, right? But, like, it's just, I don't know. It's so bad, because I'm sure this is a general statement said about plenty of teams and plenty of things. When the LA Galaxy are good, it's just good for Major League Soccer. It just makes everything more fun, more enjoyable. And I feel similar about Atlanta in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, it's bad, and I want to see changes for the future, because I just think this season nothing's going to happen. And I'm sorry to say that to your face.
I mean, it is what it is, but like I even like LAFC fans, I've talked with them. Max Bredos of LAFC, we both agree where it's like the league is best or the West is best if both the LA teams are 1 and 2. Even him as the LAFC broadcaster being able to like recognize that, that it's important for big market teams. Although we love the small market Cinderella stories of RSL beating Seattle with no shots, like. That's for us hardcore MLS guys. But, for the casual audience, I hate to say it, to help the league grow or help the league get more popular, we need the big market teams to do well too. And it's a bad look when teams like the Galaxy, the most historic team in the league, is mid. I won't say they suck. I just say they're mid right now. But
That's
DC
fine. Yeah,
United,
that's fair.
they're one of the historical teams, and they suck. But
So I was again going back to Michele because he was my LA conversations for a few weeks there. Do you think that there is an issue with the big market teams? Because right now, I think the biggest markets are obviously New York and LA, right? Like that's not a shock to anyone. Neither New York City, my team, the Galaxy, your team, the Red Bulls, if we want to consider them New York, none of them operate in the same capacity that LAFC does in being able to do what they did this season with their roster, right? Like people, that the only way that happened this year with LAFC roster is because players wanted to go play and live in Los Angeles, right? Like that is what it is. I think that there's a giant gap in the market for both New York teams, for the Galaxy. And I would throw Inter Miami in there as well right now. I know they're dealing with their own roster restrictions and penalties and all of that, but it's just like they should be abusing that. Like you should be abusing that and having an upper hand over Cincinnati, Columbus, whatever else you want to say. And it's no offense to those cities. It's just the truth. And it bothers me as a New York City fan. I don't know if it bothers you as a Galaxy fan that our teams like don't see that opportunity and jump on it.
Well, I think for the Galaxy specifically, it's mismanaging the cap because that's been their issue. They, Matt Doyle talks about it all the time on Extra Time where, the Galaxy have failed in the TAM era because they don't understand it. That's what I think the Galaxy's issue are, because we haven't struggled in bringing in the big names. Obviously, we brought in Zlatan a couple years ago. So like that hasn't gone away yet, I don't think. There's rumors about a verbal agreement for Suarez after the World Cup with the Galaxy. I don't know how true that is, so don't
I doubt that.
Out there. Yeah. But Chicharito's contract is up, so that's they're probably going to try to fill it in, even though it should just be Dayon. They're going to fill it in with like a big name or something, a jersey seller. Which I'm pissed off that Douglas Costa was a top 10 jersey, because who is buying a Douglas Costa jersey?
That was all in the preseason. People pumped up about it in the preseason.
But for New York, I think my issue with you guys visiting New York, and I just feel like I don't see a presence of either club in New York. I have actually seen more Red Bull like posters and stuff. 100%. I think in front of like MSG, I saw a lot of that. I guess the MSG network and all that. Yeah. But like that's like the only place I really saw like the teams getting promoted. Where in LA, at least, I could confidently say like I see billboards for both Galaxy and LAFC around. I see a lot of LAFC hats these days. Kind of like in LA, you don't even have to be a sports fan, but like everyone wears a Dodger hat. Yeah. I'm starting to see like LAFC kind of become like that. Which I think is, kudos to them for making a very easy to wear crest, or just like the LA part. People in LA are going to identify with that in a way. And maybe that's why the Galaxy are thinking about a rebrand, even though I really don't want that.
I like that. Maybe just like an additional like logo that you can use like an alternate. Yeah, but like not a full rebrand.
Yeah, let's not get rid of I don't know. I love the badge.
I agree.
It's a classic, you don't gotta do that. But in New York, I really struggled to like find like the exposure of both clubs. Yeah. But you're totally right about, we should be like, you and I, our teams, Red Bulls, LAFC should be abusing the cap the way that LAFC has been. And it is kind of frustrating, but also, I think MLS is due for cap increases over the next couple of years. I think it's going from like 4.9 to 5.2. I don't really know how much that's going to really change the rosters, but it is unfortunate. Look at what Toronto's doing, stuff like that. But also, you just got to utilize your DPs, those spots.
That's it, right? It's utilize the DP. I think you also have to now, to be super competitive, I think you have to utilize your max TAM guys too. Yeah. Like I think, the max TAMs in this league right now there's plenty of them better than more than half the DPs roaming around Major League Soccer. So it's insane. The last Galaxy question that I want to ask you right now, well, I guess I have one short one at the end, but you mentioned them before, but Riqui Puig.
Yes.
When he first came over, I understood both sides of the argument of like the Charlie Davies, who was saying like this guy's going to be an absolute force, Barca Academy product, like he's going to take over the league, could be the biggest signing in league history. And then you got the people who are like, Barca products are very specific, like they play a very specific system. So how is he going to play that in Vanny's system? I think he's doing pretty well so far since his introduction into the Galaxy and the league. Do you want to see like the future build for the Galaxy roster around a guy like Puig, or do you think it should be someone else, a combination of people? Like, I guess what's your thoughts around the future of a guy like him and the Galaxy?
I mean, the only worry about him is, if he does too well, then he's just going to be sold right back to Europe.
True.
And that's like the whole thing where it's like, obviously you want him to be the best player for your team, but you're also like, I want to hold on to you and cradle you and just let you be my player forever, because I know Puig is probably going to leave in the next 2 years, maybe. If he continues at the rate that he has at the start of his time with the Galaxy, he will be too good for this league very soon. But I love the idea of bringing a guy like him in, a guy that was kind of a misfit at Barca, but at the same time, he was getting Barca minutes, Well, he wasn't necessarily a starter, but he made 40 appearances for the first team by age 22. I mean, that's pretty insane, even though Barca is not the same Barca they used to be. But I get the argument about they play a certain way, but all I've seen of playing that certain way is just playing with heart, which is what I feel like the Galaxy have been lacking so much this season specifically. Because, I thought last year Julian Araujo kind of was that like spark plug guy for the Galaxy, but he's really faded off this season to where a lot of Galaxy. Yeah,
you can't do that much from the right back. You can impact the game from the right back position, but you can only really play one side of the field type of deal.
And it's the emergency defending from Araujo last year that was like pretty amazing, and why I think he was on the Mexican national team. It doesn't seem like he's on that right now because they just dropped their roster. I'm fine with that, but a lot of Galaxy fans are ready for him to move on. But back to Puig, like what he's brought to this club has been tremendous. I've never seen someone, full press all 90 minutes of the match. I mean, that takes heart, dedication. It's great that he's got age on his side right now, which is probably a big part of why he's able to do that. But, it's great for him to have, another Barca Academy alum in Victor Vasquez to mentor him through the transition to league. I know Victor helped Riqui find a house in LA and stuff like that. And he's treating him kind of like a son, which is honestly just so smart for the Galaxy and so incredible. But I really do believe that next year he could reign terror on the league and be a best 11 caliber player, but the Galaxy also have to be good for that to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean that's also the big asterisk. There is a lot of young pieces around this team right now that I am excited to see grow with the Galaxy. Maybe there could be a nice little core growing into the future, right? With Puig, Dejan, and Afri. Obviously Efra has been around for forever, and I think if he can continue, I mean, is he actually gone? Is that confirmed?
Well, he's asked to leave. The Galaxy received a loan offer, but they wanted a permanent deal, so he's not coming back.
Well, that sucks. Never mind. Ignore what I just said. Fuck it.
Every Galaxy fan wants Joveljic and Puig to be like the next chapter of the Galaxy, and I would love nothing more than for Kevin Cabral to figure things out this offseason. All he needs is confidence. I've never seen a player with such a lack of confidence in my life. He looks like Bambi. After
that's it.
Yeah. He had that wide open chance against Nashville, but every Galaxy fan watching that knew he was going to miss that, and that's not a thing that should happen. That was a very easy shot. If he just shot it a half a second earlier, he had the whole far post open to him. It's just, it's the confidence with him that hurts, because I know he is a talented player. He's at least fast, he's got one thing going for him. So, why not another,
Look, he gets into such good spots, and I don't want this to turn into a shitting on Kevin Cabral podcast, but it's really I do want him to figure it out, because I think the worst thing than every single Galaxy fan knowing that he's going to miss that is that Kevin Cabral knew he was going to miss that. And that's where exactly it's just like you said, that confidence issue of a downward spiral of it all. My final Galaxy question is, as of today, September 13th, when we were recording this, I'll timestamp it. Do you think the Galaxy end up in a playoff spot? It could be 7. No, you think it's done?
I think if Portland needs to stop winning, man. I know we have games in hand on them, but they keep winning, so that's gonna help them in the end of the day. I'm looking at it now. I mean, RSL might drop out, but I kind of want them in. You want RSL to make the playoffs, right?
You want RSL to make a run to the Western Conference Finals somehow, and
it's gonna come down to decision day again. But I don't know. We're at the point in the season where draws are hurting us. You know, at first in the middle of the season, you're like, hey, you know, at least we didn't lose. We got a point. But no, it's not happening.
I think you guys play RSL on decision day, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank God it's not Houston. We are cursed against Houston.
Bro, Houston on decision day, Galaxy, that was my longest joke for like 3 seasons. Like it was
my biggest nightmare for 3 seasons.
You guys do play RSL on decision day. So a repeat of last year's. No.
Yeah, sorry, Minnesota. Well, no, we played Minnesota, but Minnesota clinched while we lost that, I believe, or they were already in, but like they clinched a higher seed. So like decision day is going to mean a lot for both clubs.
Yeah, it was RSL who eliminated you guys. The Damir Krylak goal.
SKC,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry.
It sucks because I love Damir, but like you ripped my heart out of my chest.
Exactly. Oh. See, and that's what you're balancing the Galaxy fandom and the league fandom right there. Yes. You know, that was a visual of it.
Last year I did a 5-hour stream on decision day, this live stream on Instagram.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes, and there's screenshots of the exact moment the Galaxy were eliminated from the playoffs, and you see just my soul leaving my body. I'm going to send it to you at the end of this because it's just so funny to me now, but like you see my soul just leaving my body.
I love it. Well, I don't love it, but I mean, again,
it's funny.
My sports fandoms, I'm Jets, Mets, Knicks, NYCFC fan. I got 1 trophy in all of those years right there. So it was last year. That was it. That's all I got. So I get pain of being a sports fan for sure. For sure.
I can't complain because it's like, yes, we have 5 MLS Cups, but like since I've started This Week in MLS, the Galaxy have been awful.
We're 0. We got 0 in that.
I started 2015. Our last ring was 2014. So it's like, you know.
Let's chat about this because you've had a few recent in-game experiences that I feel like have been pretty cool. I know you were at the All-Star game. You also went to the Canadian Classique. Let's talk about the Canadian Classique because I feel like that's a game like I want to go to one day. Like that's an experience that's absolutely insane. If you want to just kind of dive in on your overall thoughts of the game and then maybe just, I guess, Canada. I know you told me it was your first time in Canada, so that has to be also fun.
Yeah. That was my first time in Canada. I went with a group of friends from Syracuse. So we drove up. The drive was actually kind of a nightmare because people decided to have accidents on the tiny bridges with 1 lane.
Good.
So, you know, we got stuck. But, you know, Canada, beautiful. Honestly, Toronto to me is just like another big American city, and that's no knock on it. But I really like the city. The stadium was really nice. Surprisingly, like BMO Field was really, really cool. And there was a big festival happening outside. It was kind of like their state fair, but right outside of the stadium. So that was really cool. The actual match itself, I mean, obviously Toronto went up 2-0 in 7 minutes, and we were all like, "Oh, it's over! It's over!" This is like the Italians have taken over. And you know, it was cool to see 2 Syracuse alum going against each other. I will mention Alex Bono and Kamal Miller, and you know, Kamal Miller scores that goal to go 2-1, and it's like, oh my God, the comeback will happen. Like, I don't know why, but to me, like the second Montreal scored the first one instead of like the second one, I was like, oh yeah, Montreal's like, they're doing this. They did the thing. Georgi Mihalovic with a great goal. Kai Kamara gets his. There's, you know, the flopping and all that stuff. There's a little bit of there's some heated moments, and it was great. This is what you want out of a derby match, and it was honestly, it lived up to the hype to me. I do think it's probably a top 3 derby in MLS.
Yeah,
I'd say, you know, Portland, Seattle, LAFC, Galaxy, and Montreal, Toronto in the order. Hudson River Derby, I was there in the middle of the summer. Didn't fully live up to, but I like the fan interactions. That was great. But you know, in terms of,
I think the fan interactions might be more intense than the player interactions at this point.
Yes, I agree. Because I sat at, sorry, I know we're talking about a different experience, but at Red Bull Arena, I was under the NYCFC fans.
Okay.
So like I got to hear them when Tati scored and that stuff. That was cool. But in terms of the fans, you know, you couldn't really see, there was no away section for Montreal, which was interesting. They're like, we're not giving you tickets, but like there were Montreal fans scattered around, and you could tell when they were hyped and stuff. But you know, seeing a match in Canada, it was pretty cool to me. And it's funny because that trip was not meant necessarily for me to go to a soccer match, but because the Canadian Classique was there at that time, I was like, there's just no way that I'm not going.
Go. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm in an MLS city with an MLS match, I'm going to go.
Exactly.
And it was cool. I got to catch up with Alex at the end of the match. I know he had a very rough match, so it was very kind of a rough season, but kind of him to still want to talk and stuff. And actually, he's coming to Syracuse in a couple weeks. We're gonna kick it then. Cool. But it's cool to see. Go watching to go from a Syracuse soccer match, watching that team play, and then going to see guys that have been there and now they're doing their big things. Like Cabral might start in the World Cup. Like
he should start in the World Cup.
He should. I mean, to me, outside of the Philadelphia defenders, he's up there for my defender of the year. I can't give it to anyone that's not a Philadelphia Union defender, but if we were to erase the Philadelphia Union, he is like a lock for my best 11. And he had just an incredible match. I know obviously they gave up quite a few goals, both sides did, but Cabral specifically he's just become an absolute tank, and he's just seeing his improvement and seeing it live and also knowing how nice of a person he is. It's a beautiful thing.
I mean, I can agree with you, right, on a lot of things you just said. One, I agree the Canadian Classique is one of those top 3 rivalries in the league. And I mean, every single time I see it on TV, I'm like, I have to go to that one day, whether it's in Toronto or Montreal. Like that's like one of my future MLS trips that I have to be planning. And more specifically on the Montreal side of speaking of players who are going to get sold into Europe very soon, Kamal Miller, I feel like is on top of that list for Montreal. I think Alistair Johnston, I think after the World Cup is going to be a dude who's going to prove himself, and he's going to be gone soon. Like Montreal were very good in 2022. I think 2023 might be a different team, and we'll see what Nancy does. He's proven and he's produced with worse, I feel like at this point. So I'm excited, and that's awesome. And I just love hearing stories of MLS experiences, because like we talk about the X's and the O's, the games, the storylines, but like we don't talk about like what the experience of going to a game is like, right? So like that's something that I absolutely love. I was just in Philadelphia this past weekend. I got to see the Union absolutely put the smack down on Orlando City, bro. Like Orlando City was clearly just in like a hangover from the U.S. Open Cup. So I get it. I was expecting a big win. There was a lot of roster rotation, and I mean 5-1. It was sick. I just absolutely fantastic experience. It was the first time that someone walking around getting a beer. It was the first time that someone came up to me and was like, MLS Aces, and I was like, no. Hey. Like I'm such a socially awkward person when you catch me in person, if anyone ever sees me. So like I was like, no, and he was like, what? I said, yeah, I mean that's me. Yeah, and he was like, holy shit, can I get a photo? So I took a photo with them, first time ever, loved it. And it was just, I don't know, just a cool experience overall. Maybe that helped the experience even more, but loved it. And I think we should talk about like the away days, the in-game experiences, like all that stuff, because that's what soccer is. Soccer is just there's so many different layers to making it such an enjoyable, globally, worldwide, just loved sport. And I think we have our own version of that we need to share stories of. And it's hard to do sometimes, but I think when we can, we definitely should. Eli, I want to talk about this tweet you put out a few days ago. And
yes.
You put out a USMNT depth chart for the 2022 World Cup, I'm assuming, back in February 23rd of 2018. Yes. And there's a lot of names on here that are currently on the USMNT roster. You got the Pulisics, the McKennies, right? Yedlin still rocking around. There's just some interesting names. So first of all, I just want to hear, like, do you remember your thought process for this entire, like, what you were putting out here?
Yeah, I mean, not gonna lie, this was at a time where I did not watch any European soccer. I'm just gonna put it out there now. So that's why there might be an MLS bias here, but with certain players like the Gideon Zalaloms, the Kyle Scotts, the Isaiah Youngs, who most people don't know, and
that was one I had to look up. I was like, who the hell is I Young?
I am not gonna lie, for Isaiah Young specifically, I was looking at the FIFA database and saw that he was playing for Bremen. And I was like, in 4 years, he's going to be good.
Starting.
He a starter. Haji Wright even. I didn't know who he was, but I believe he was with like was it Hertha Berlin or he was for one of those big German clubs.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, in 4 years, he's going to be starter material, Gideon Zalalem was at Arsenal. So, he never broke out, sadly, because of injuries and stuff. And his MLS career has been pretty sad to watch.
Hey, it's my guy now. That's my guy.
I know. Hey, I'm rooting for him. I've been rooting for him. Like that's I'm always going to support him. But that was kind of my thought process with those guys. But I want to get into some of the MLS names here. So if you want to give me a name, I'll explain my reasoning.
Okay. I want to go with. Let's go with Bobby Wood because I can understand the reasoning. I'll give you a softball here of why you pick Bobby Wood as a starting striker.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't help us qualify for the World Cup in 2018, but he was still young-ish. He was supposed to be, I don't know, is he 29 this year? He's still he's supposed to be in his prime. So I thought, 4 more years of development. He was at Hamburg at the time. That's how far back we are here. He might have just had made the move to Hanover. I don't know the exact timeline, but I was like, he's going to be our striker in Europe and he's going to do his thing. And, he's going to continue to get better and, not let this failure, ruin us or ruin him. I felt like he was just, still going to be one of the few guys that we brought over from the 2018 team or 2017, I guess.
The funny thing about Bobby Wood is I remember being so hyped when he made his debut, I think under Klinsmann, right? And I don't know, I was just he's the Hawaiian Messi. This is it. This dude is just going to absolutely tear it up. And he was scoring goals for a little bit, but obviously, like you just mentioned, the career never fully worked out the way I think everyone was hoping. Let's go Brandon Vincent at left back though, because that is a TBT if we're talking about MLS names here.
Yeah, so this was right before Anthony Robinson really broke out. So that's my defense. He broke out kind of later in the year. Some people don't fully remember that because they're like, oh, well, Anthony Robinson existed in 2018. Why wasn't he there? Well, he was 2018-19 instead of 2017-18 when this was, if you're talking about the European schedule. But in my mind, Brandon Vincent was the best left back that the U.S. had at the time. And I believe
Brandon Vincent Brandon Vincent at one point was the best American left back in Major League Soccer. Easy.
Yes.
Easy.
And I think at this time, he had at least gone to January camp. I believe he was called up once. It's unfortunate that he has since retired, but I don't fully blame him based on, contracts and the degree he has, which we'll talk about degrees with another player you're going to ask me. But Brandon Vincent at the time, that wasn't that far-fetched of a pick then.
No.
Obviously it looks bad now. But I actually have another version of this depth chart where I had another funny name as my starting left back, and that's Danny Acosta.
Yes.
From RSL.
Who,
sadly his injuries have prevented him from panning out, and now he's in the USL for Orange County. But at the time he was a US Youth International left back that was killing it for RSL. It sucks that didn't last, but he, those were two guys. And then I have Court Ford. I feel bad for the way his career's panned out with injuries and his mother dying and stuff. I know that has kind of affected his growth, but he was a young, promising left back he was the Sam Vines before Sam Vines.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's fair. I'm thinking back. That's fair.
But yeah, he's pre-Sam Vines and all those guys. And yeah, Anthony Robinson hadn't really played yet. So that's why I had those guys.
I'm trying to remember Danny Acosta. I know, like you said, he's playing in USL right now, but he's plays for someone's national team. Am I not wrong?
Maybe Honduras.
Yes. Okay. So I'm seeing it right now, though. Yeah. So I mean, that's still cool. I know he's in. There's injuries going on and everything with him, but it's cool that he's gotten some international CONCACAF, careers underneath him in some capacity. Mm-hmm. So I love it. Another name that you referenced before that I was going to ask you about is because I have to ask you about it. Thomas Hilliard Arce, center back. I mean, look, you have him third on the depth chart, so a little disrespect there to Thomas Hilliard Arce, but. Why was he on your USMNT depth chart back then?
First of all, I might add a little Galaxy bias here because at this point, the Galaxy had drafted him to MLS, and there were a lot of high hopes for him. And the big reason why I put him on here was because he went to Stanford. And he was part of the Stanford dynasty with Jordan Morris. Brandon Vincent was part of that as well. The unstoppable college team. And in my 18-year-old mind, or I was 17 at this point, I was like, if Jordan Morris could represent the U.S. from college, Tomas Hilliard Arce can too.
Yeah,
And
that's how it works.
Hilliard Arce hadn't even made an appearance for the Galaxy. He actually never really broke out with the club because they had so many mediocre center backs ahead of him that they just never even gave him the real chance. But I was hoping, at least in 4 years, this is, I'm the biggest super draft supporter out there. So, I see these guys panning out. I thought, Miles Robinson wasn't Miles Robinson yet, but I thought that he would have that career that like Miles Robinson has been having. Or, I thought he'd be like the Walker Zimmerman of the squad. There's always going to be like an MLS center back at the World Cup for the U.S. That's just how it's going to be. And I thought, I'll place my bets on Tomas Hilliard Arce. And it's funny because he's retired. Like Brandon Vincent, both went to Stanford and both decided to use their degree instead of, pursue soccer, even though he'd be like 23, 24. Oh my God, I lost my train of thought.
His degree?
Yeah, his degree. I forgot where I was going with this. But, I thought that he would be, a very, there it is. It's funny. He's still in Football Manager right now, but he actually has a Costa Rica flag attached to him. So I don't know like what happened there or why he's even still in Football Manager, but yeah, I guess he could have chosen Costa Rica as well.
I have to Google this now. He was born in Hartford, Connecticut.
So where's the Costa Rica, man?
Where's the Costa Rica here? Costa Rica. His mom was Costa Rican. There you go. And he played for the Costa Rican U20 team in 2014.
Gotcha. So yeah, obviously he's USMNT built.
That's it. The one thing that you had on here that I absolutely loved was there was part of my brain that forgot Matt Polster was a right back at one point, and I was just like, how good was that Chicago Fire team that had Brandon Vincent and Matt Polster, and they probably didn't do. I mean, they didn't because I think there was one season that Nemanja
2017
was the Golden Boot leader, and then you had Polster. Yep, like that was the team. But that
Katai was like not racist yet. Well, he was, but you know what I mean. Like,
wasn't openly racist at that point.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Like I loved that Chicago Fire team when Dax was like that was one of my teams, and I just loved. Like Chicago was like my Eastern team for a little while because I rode them a little bit. I was like, this team's legit. They're gonna go far. And then they didn't, but that's part of my mentality there. But yeah, Matt Polster was a right back for the first couple years, and then transitioned to center mid at the Revs.
Yeah, I will say, 17-year-old Eli, like you got a lot of names that are still present day on the roster or surrounding just outside the roster. Maybe like a Haji right? So like, you did a good job. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I had to sneak in Jacinho in there,
Yeah.
Jordan Morris was still a striker then. He wasn't a winger. Like, we'll see.
It's fine. Positions don't matter anymore. It's just about, you were looking at a free-flowing soccer style, right? Like you were just looking, we're going to make connections, and that's it. We don't need set systems or styles or anything like that. Love it.
Also, I'm not sure. One more thing. I'm not sure if Bruce Arena was still the USMNT coach or not at this time, but he would always run the 4-4-2, so that's why I think it's in a 4-4-2. Putting that out there. And it's tough to see that Matt Miazga and John Brooks were my starting two center backs, because in a perfect world they probably could be the starting center backs right now.
In a perfect world where Miazga wasn't loaned out 100 times during his spell with Chelsea, and Brooks, whatever is going on between Brooks and Triple G right now is going on. But I mean, look, again, realistically, John Brooks should be on the roster, so I'll give you that one. So don't worry about it. You got that one too in my book. The final thing that I want to have a quick conversation about, and then I will let you go enjoy the rest of your night, is the MVP conversation. I know you said before we chatted that it recently changed, so I'm excited to hear who you have atop of it. But do you have a fun MVP, like a dude who you're like, I really wish he was MVP, but there's no chance in hell that he is absolutely going to win this? Because I'll give you mine is Kai Wagner. I
was going to say that's probably the first one in mine where I'm like, they're not going to give a defender MVP, but the fact that he has 15 assists as a left back, that's absolutely nuts. And maybe I would even throw in Andre Blake. Just as a guy who's definitely not going to win it with the race this year.
Yeah.
But in maybe some other years, like I believe it was 2020, where like he was like close,
Yes, there was a season where I think he got a few votes, right? Like that. I mean,
Yes.
I like it because like I think legitimately it doesn't have to go to like a striker 10 in my brain. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't have to. It's just always going to go that way with like media swing of it. I get it. Whatever. I'm maybe a little bit out there with it, but like
Mhm.
Kai Wagner, 15 assists. He's tied for third in key passes in the league from the left back
Yeah.
position. Give it to him. But who is
I
your
got to
actual?
that
Yeah,
real quick.
yeah,
There's no way he's doing it. Probably not even going to touch the best 11. But where I will give Wilfred Nancy my coach of the year right now. Even though Jim Curtin's probably going to win it, deservedly so. But I would love a Nancy to win it because Montreal. No one expected Montreal to be this good. But like
yeah.
Romel Kyoto, I feel like whenever I see Montreal just absolutely killing it in the box score, it's Romel Kyoto who's getting the job done for them. Especially while Georgie was out. So I would throw in Romel Kyoto as just like a player that I would like to see, win it. But like obviously he's not in my top 5 or anything.
Yeah.
Or
He's
like a Vasquez, Brandon Vasquez. That could be fun, but not happening.
I agree with you, right? I think Nancy has more of a shot to win Coach of the Year than Kyoto does to like make a best 11, but definitely a great season from the dude, and I can agree with you there. But who at this point, again, I'll date it of September 13th, is leading your race for MVP?
Well, like the first 5 or 6 months of the season, I don't know how many months it's been. It was the Driussi, like it was the Driussi award. We knew it was going to him, and it was just absolutely Driussi's award. But Hani's been sneaking up so much recently, and with Nashville in the current form that they're
Yeah.
in, and Hani leading the Golden Boot race and having more goals plus assists. For me, Hani has to be MVP right now, especially with Austin sliding the way they are at the moment. For me, I think back at the this also might have been 2020 Defender of the Year award. It was Jonathan Mensah's until
Yes.
basically the last week of the season where Walker Zimmerman like leapfrogged him. I think it's that type of vibe, and it's just so funny how it's Nashville for both of those. But to me, Hani should win MVP. I don't think it has to go to the. Actually, no, because I made that argument for Carlos Gil last year, where like I'm not going to make this argument because last year I was like, it should go to the best player on the best team. Because that's why I defended Carlos Gil over Hani last year. But Hani deserves it. I'd say over the last 2 years, he has been the best player in MLS. You got to give it to him.
Well, if you want to use the best player on the best team argument, then it goes back to Andre Blake, and that's a whole thing that we just talked about. But
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. But
Even
I
Gazdag, he's probably my top 5 right now.
I think Gazdag has to be in top 5. I think that's fair. That's fair. I'm with you. I think for a while to start the season, it was Driussi, and I think Jesus Ferrara probably had a little bit of a shot the first month and a half of the season, but it was Driussi for the longest time up until about 2 weeks ago, and then I'm like, I want to try to look in the full season perspective of like over the course of the entire season. What are we looking at here? Like Hani wasn't fully there, Nashville wasn't fully there, but 33 goals plus assists right now is absolutely insane. Like I think Hani's like, you know what? Last season I probably should have won it over Carlos Hill, but now I'm going to make it absolutely like I know I'm winning it this year, and that's what he's doing. So I'm happy for him. I think he's deserving of it right now. Obviously, we have a few more weeks. Maybe Driussi. We've seen weirder things like hat tricks, and we'll see what happens the last few weeks of the season for Austin and Nashville. But it's Hani. I think it's Hani that he's going to take home the award at the end of the day.
Yeah. And one thing I want to add just to the Hani argument is because I did a little reel on this like a week ago. But if you combine goals and assists, he has the highest percentage of his teams by far in the league. So you take away him from Nashville and they're completely destroyed. Whereas, at least Austin, I mean, you can't blame a team that has talent, but they still got Fagundes, they got guys as well. I can't really say that about Nashville, really.
Yeah, it's so tough because I do feel like if you remove Driussi from Austin, I don't know if Fagundes is balling out the same way. Yeah, but it's still, I think it's a fair argument. I think it's a fair argument for sure. Well, Eli, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So where can the people find you? Where can the people watch these reels? Because if you're not watching Eli's reels, I mean, for me personally, if you're not watching it on TikTok, then it's an issue. But where can the people find the reels?
Yeah, This Week in MLS on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I post everything on all 3 of those. because I'm lazy to create content for each specific platform. But, Instagram engagement has been weird lately. So, I'd really love the support there. That's kind of where most of my cult following, I would say, is. So definitely check me out there. And obviously check out the MLS Aces, of course. I called you guys the MLS. Never mind. I should go die now. No, follow MLS Aces everywhere on all your platforms, of course, because it is such a good podcast that I practically begged Tom to have me on here a second time.
Totally. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I was like, no, Eli, you can't come on, and this is going to be a bad show. No, I'm just kidding. Eli, of course, I'm so happy to have you on again. We'll have you on for a third, a fourth, a fifth, however many times you want to come on. We will definitely do this. I appreciate you, man. Go follow Eli. Go follow This Week in MLS, and we will catch you guys next week.